My name is Aidan, or Adoy Lego Studios on Instagram and YouTube, and this is the Battle of Sorgan mixed in with some of the more casual parts of Sorgan during the middle of the day that we can get into. We can go and start on the right side of the mock over here with basically the centerpiece of the mock that really brings you into it, which is the ATSD. So this is actually a combo of a custom build and a BrickFair instruction custom build that I bought instructions off somebody else for. So I built it originally, but the legs were way too flimsy for like display and bringing it to a convention. So I actually had to go and take apart the legs entirely. So everything from the feet up to here that you see is my design, but past that, that's a different builder. I don't recall the name, and I feel really bad about that. But yeah, that's the biggest part of the mock that I did last because it was very daunting, and I was not looking forward to doing that. But I think it turned out pretty good. And there is a light brick in there. I don't have it on right now because you can't see it really well with all the lights on, because in the show it is glowing red. And then moving on to the pawns. So these were actually what inspired me to make this entire mock, because I looked at the show and I just love the way that the pawns are shaped. So this is from season 1, episode 4, I believe, in Sorgan. And the first shot you see is just the pawns, like a wide shot of them, and they look really great because they're like square, but they like curve at the same time. And I really tried to recreate that by using wedge plates to like kind of make it seem like it's curving around. And then as you go back, you get to these sort of barricades. This is made by mostly just throwing a ton of reddish brown and dark gray bricks just everywhere. And it gets the work done. There's also some torches worked in there. Those do turn on. I just don't have them on yet again because it's rather light outside, and the battery box is buried underneath that trough over there. And then I just have some figs written about. These were actually not placed by me. These were placed by my good friend Shane. And it really adds a lot to the mock. Like that guy going into the water over there. You have another raider over here falling into the water. You have that explosion over there, which he did a fantastic job with. Really loved how that turned out. And then, of course, you got shirtless Woody back there, which is the masterpiece of the mock, in my opinion. That was put on there by my good friend Jonathan, actually. And then as you move more to the left, you get into the more like sanctuary section of the build where it's a lot more like secluded. And this is based on, before this actual whole battle takes place, I tried to blend two separate scenes in one. Putting the huts in the middle is kind of the like cutoff point for that. So we have a little market over here. So the main food that the Sorgan villagers use is actually krill. And my friend Finn, or Carbon Builds on Instagram, he suggested using these blue feather pieces, and I think they turned out wonderfully. And it really gives that like Star Wars fish kind of feel, which is a really weird feel that's like hard to recreate. So I loved how that turned out. Now these huts, this is my favorite part of the build after building it all. And funnily enough, this roof design actually came about because my dad was in my Lego room one night, and he just started stacking these quarter plates together, putting studs in between, and it made a perfect circle. And I'm like, Dad, I can use this. So these are just tossed in here like this, and then they just slide right in, and it kind of just fits real nice and snug. And then these are on clip pieces on a hose, and it works out pretty well, and it's a pretty faithful recreation of them. And I guess the last two things in this corner over here is this is a completely separate hut in the show that I think this is where Mando actually stays overnight in the show. And it was a lot more difficult than these actually, because those side pieces are very flimsy and only held on by hinges, and trying to get them to that perfect angle was actually rather difficult. And then lastly, we have this little, honestly, I don't entirely know what it is. It's kind of like a land speeder, but like more like rural in Star Wars, which is something you don't really see a lot, so that was fun to make. And I just sort of put a ton of brown tiles all over the place, put a crate on there, a little small light, then a droid head from a Y-Wing starfighter from 2012, actually. So yeah, that's basically just a quick overview of the build. Very happy with how it turned out. Started building it in 2019, so this is before COVID was even a thing. Took about a break for a year when I dropped out of Lego, and I just finished it a few months ago, actually, and had to fly it all out here, which was a whole other story. But very happy with how it turned out.
Fantastic work. This was one of my favorite scenes in the first season of The Mandalorian. I love the battle with all the water in it, and then as you've captured here, kind of just cobbling together their defenses here. So talk a little bit more about some of the pieces you used throughout here, because there's all sorts of fun little pieces thrown in.
Yeah, so the way my Lego collection is sorted at home is it's sorted by color. I'm trying to go away from that, actually, sort more by part, but it's very helpful for stuff like this. So essentially what I do is I just dig through my reddish-brown bin and be like, oh, this looks like a random part that would just be thrown in here. It looked like they just slapped a board on here. Because it's a very rudimentary barricade that they make in here. It's not like in like World War I or World War II where they used a ton of sandbags everywhere. Like this is just anything they can find around the village. So you have barrels everywhere, you have catapult pieces, you have brooms, which probably don't work that well in all honesty against a bullet. And then you have some ladders. So just anything I could find that would give the idea that they just found it and just plopped it on there to sort of make a barricade, because that is what they do in the show.
And I love the way you did the water here, where you kind of stack those angled pieces on top of it, and so it creates a very natural look there.
Yeah, that was actually, I think I said this already, but that was the idea behind this entire mock. I'm very happy how it turned out because it still gives the illusion that it's a square or a rectangular shape, but it has this one over here has very subtle creases in it, which makes it seem more natural, but also it was man-made at the same time.
So you mentioned flying this here, so talk about that experience. Any tips you can share with people who might have to travel with their builds?
Don't do it, flying. That would be my first advice. From now on, anytime I want to bring a big mock, I'll be driving. So initially, my plan was this 6 gray base plates in total, and it's split into 3 2-gray base plate sections. However, that does not fit in a suitcase on an airplane, so I had to break this all down base plate by base plate. Then all the huts do come off individually, and then all of the grass, I would just bubble wrap over that, which doesn't work. It knocks all the grass over. It kept it from breaking at least. And since this is a lot of reddish brown, I made the mistake of putting tape on that reddish brown. So I'd say I had about 15 to 25 reddish brown pieces just snap in half when I unwrapped it. So definitely recommend being very careful with any reddish brown pieces as you transport them for sure. And then yeah, this thing, the ATSD, I kind of just tossed it all in some bubble wrap and just wrapped it a ton, which kept the head together and the legs together. But honestly, if there's any advice I can give, it's take a ton of pictures of your build. I had about 30 to 40 pictures of my build that I was just constantly referencing, and that really helped me put it together, because I was like, where does this exactly go on this one exact stud? And that's why it only took me 6 hours, which I honestly thought it was going to probably take 10 to 12. But because of those pictures, I was able to just remember exactly how it goes together, and not only have to remember on my photographic memory.
Do you have any idea how many pieces are in the build?
Ooh, no clue. I do know that I did at one point order 1,000 of these 2x2 dark tan tiles. So going off that, I'd say probably anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 easily. Those huts each are probably about 500 pieces. So yeah, probably around upwards of $10,000 now that I think about it.
Fantastic work here, and I also wanted to point out some of the Batman builds over here. So I think you worked on part of this as a collaborative, right?
Yes, this is a collab with me and some of my friends based off the Batman movie. So my friend Garrett, or BrickFair, he actually built this over here initially, and me and some of my other friends were like, oh, that's really cool, we should do a collab about this. So my friend Garrett also built this bat symbol, which is my favorite part of the collab in all honesty. I think he did a great job with that. And then my friend Brendan, or Lego Jedi Bob, he went ahead and built the interrogation scene from the movie, which is iconic already, even though the movie's already been out for a year. And then I went ahead and built the finale scene from the movie, which is this Batman facing off against it's not the Riddler, because it's all of his sort of cult followers. And then this is the most flimsy build I've ever built. It basically, when I take it apart, it's just in each individual part. It looks like I was unwrapping a Lego set when I took it apart. And if the table gets knocked a little, it falls over. So in all honesty, I'm very surprised that it's still up. But I'm very happy with how this turned out, because we probably a month and a half ago was this would be a lot of fun. And it just ended up working out really well.
I love the sense of action and movement you got here, even with how precarious the build is.
That was actually not on purpose, because this railing, it doesn't line up entirely, so I needed to have a break in there. So I had to think logically, be why would there be a break? And I was like, oh, he got kicked into it. So sometimes the little happy accidents end up making the build a lot better and enhance it a lot more.
Well, great work. Thank you for your work on all these builds here at the show, and thanks for taking us through them. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you for your time as well.